draw to, make a pass, and this team willing to share the sugar.
Steal. Sengun with the drive, and Sengun with the dunk.
Dominguez got Van Vliet. Backdoor. Majewski found Steph. Little tic-tac-toe to Looney, but what a block by Sengun.
Justice Smith. Jabari for three, and the win. Yeah! He got it!
What's up, everyone? It's Lashard Binkley. Of course, I am your host of Rockets Field Podcast and Rockets Field Report. And on today's Rockets Field Report, we will be breaking down Alperen Sengun's defense. One of the biggest surprises so far of the season is Alperen Sengun's improved defense from his first couple years in the league. I mean, just overall the Rockets team defense, but specifically Alperen Sengun's defense, who surprisingly has been, if not top defender on the team this year, definitely 1A or 1B when it comes to defenders on the Houston Rockets, and one of the most improved defenders in the entire NBA. We'll be breaking down some of the numbers when it comes to Alperen Sengun's defensive rise this season, and also just kind of just talking about the eye test, just watching the games and just watching how much he's improved on the defensive end. A big reason why the Rockets are now 8-6 and one of the surprise teams in the league. So let's get right into it. Last, couple seasons when we started off, when we talk about Alperen Sengun, you always talk about Alperen Sengun's spectacular offensive game, his offensive highlights, his great passes, his big-time dunks, and being one of the best post players in the entire NBA. But one thing that also was mentioned a lot with Alperen Sengun in the first couple seasons was his perceived lack of defensive skills. Particularly when it came to being able to shut down the paint or being able to be that defensive anchor that a lot of teams, of course, need when you're trying to become a winning team, going from a rebuilding team to a winning team. A lot of people were saying, yes, Alperen Sengun has a great offensive game. He has great offensive skills, but man, his defense is not on the same level as his offensive game. And sometimes he's a liability on the defensive end, whether that's true or not, because again, when the whole team is bad on the defensive end, which the Rockets have been for the past 3 seasons, I don't care if you're Akeem Olajuwon, if your teammates are bad on defense, there's only so much you can do as an individual defender, especially a center in today's NBA. But Alperen Sengun was some needed improvement from Alperen Sengun on that end of the floor. Rockets themselves even admitted that during the press conference when they introduced Udoka. Ime said that he was thinking about them possibly bringing in a kind of a different type of center other than Sengun, at least for his backup. But so much so that they believe that they went after Brook Lopez hard. He was one of the 3 free agents that the Rockets went after extremely hard this offseason. Of course, the other 2 were Fred VanVleet and Dillon Brooks that they did get. But Brook Lopez changed his mind at the last second, a la Chris Bosh, and decided to stick with the Milwaukee Bucks. But the Rockets definitely had a lot of interest in Brook Lopez, of course, because of his shooting, because he's one of the best big men shooting in the entire NBA, but also because of his defense. He's also one of the top shot blockers year in and year out in the entire NBA. So the Rockets also have their concerns, let's be honest, about Alperen Sengun's defense. Boy, sometimes the best plans are the ones that you don't end up making. And the fact that the Rockets missed out on Brook Lopez and gave the reins completely to Alperen Sengun was the best non-decision that they made this past offseason. As I talked about before, Alperen Sengun offense is already on another level. There's not much more he can improve as far as his offense other than becoming a better overall shooter from the outside. But as far as when he's in the mid-range end, he's one of the best offensive players in the league. But something that has shocked and surprised a lot of people has been Alperen Sengun's defense this season. Even if you go back a little bit further, maybe we shouldn't have been as surprised, because if you go back to the last month and a half of the season, Alperen Sengun defense was getting a lot better, even as the team defense continued to falter. I remember asking Coach Silas and Alperen after one of the games late in April towards the end of the season about Alperen Sengun defense. And I know a lot of people say, hey, Silas didn't like Sengun for whatever reason. Whether that's true or not, who knows? But yes, there was some tension as far as how much time Alperen Sengun was playing. Remember that Sengun didn't even start the season, that Bruno Fernando started the season, and Sengun didn't really start to actually play until Fernando got hurt. But Coach Silas himself even said towards the end of the season when I asked him about Sengun's improved defense, he saw the improvement in Sengun and how hard he was working.
I go at him every single game.
That's Alpi, that's Jabari, that's Jalen, that's Scoot. We don't have any guys who are going to back down. But yeah, Alpi, especially, I've challenged him this season when it comes to the defensive end, and he's responded. I'm happy for him and proud of him for doing that because he's supremely confident and he's going to be a really, really good player in this league. And for him to be a really good player in this league, it has to be on both ends of the floor. He's not backing down. He's trying really hard. He's really rebounding the ball on the defensive end. He's trying to do all the coverages. Tonight was a really tough matchup, but he didn't back down from it not one bit. I love him.
And then also, like I said, I had Sengun in the locker room right after that about how hard he's been working on defensive end and how much he improved. And he was talking about it, but then his teammates chimed in. Jalen Green in the background said, when I asked him how much has he improved on defense end, he said much improved. And you can hear him. I mean, teammates even knew that he was improving on defense even during last season. And this was that interview when I asked him that question.
He challenged you earlier in the season on the defensive end. How much do you think your defense has improved from the beginning of the year until now?
Way better.
I think I improved my defense because I was really I didn't figure out beginning of season because last season and this season my pick and roll defense plans is changed, and I just didn't figure out at the beginning of the season, and now I think I'm trying hard, and then I'm trying my best.
You see, he was improving even at the end of last year. He's just continued that into this season. Now, if you kind of go a little bit deeper into the numbers, you can really see the big difference between, you can just look up and down the row as far as when it comes to relatively on the team this season. He's near the top in all the defensive metrics. So he's improved because of the team defense, but also because of his individual defense. If you look at the numbers last season, he was ranked 357th in defensive rating last year, 117 defensive rating on the season last season. To put in perspective, I had to scroll several pages down just to find Alperen Sengun. I almost felt like I missed his name earlier, but no, I hadn't missed it. I had to go almost towards the bottom of the league. If you think about it, it's only like 400 NBA players in the entire NBA. I had to scroll almost toward the bottom to find a defensive rating last season, but now you look at this season, completely different. But also, if you look at some of the other numbers from last season, like I said, the Rockets were towards the bottom of the league in points per game, and not just last season, the last two seasons. They were towards the bottom in defensive rating last year. Pretty much any defensive measure you can think of, the Rockets were at the bottom of the league last season. So, of course, that skews some of the numbers from last season. But, man, being 357th in the league in defensive rating, that is wow. That is something. And that makes you think even more if you look at this season. If you look at some of the numbers, when you look at his defensive ratings, he went from 357th last season to this season. He is top 5 in defensive rating at 105.5. That is pretty amazing. He's up there with people like Rudy Gobert, and I'm not even talking about Jason Tate in this video, but man, this is something to watch Jason Tate, even though he doesn't play as many minutes as some of the other people on the list. But to see him at number 2, I can't continue without even mentioning that. Jason Tate has been absolutely great off the bench this season. But he's up there with people like Rudy Gobert, and man, even Karl-Anthony Towns is up there. So that's another player that, not known for his defense, that has definitely improved this season. But he is higher than players like Kawhi Leonard. He's higher than players like Jason Tatum. He's higher than players like Jaren Jackson Jr., who won Defensive Player of the Year. Alperen Sengun's defense has improved so much this season. If you continue to look at some of the defensive metrics when it comes to Alperen Sengun, in defensive plus minus box scores, he's ranked number 9 in that rating. Again, we're up there with some of the players like Nikola Jokic and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, some of the top players in the league. And that's a big deal because that lets you know that he is having a positive effect on the court when he's on the court. When he's on the court, the Rockets are winning those minutes. It's not like he's on the court and yeah, his plus minus is horrible. And yes, I know you can't always judge things on plus minus because of a lot of variables. But if you're looking at the game, you know that plus minus is absolutely correct when it comes to Alperen Sengun because he's doing things on the offensive and defensive end. Even if you kind of look at some of the other numbers, defensive win share, that tells you directly that he's affecting the game positively on defensive end. He is number 13 in defensive win share, again, with some of the top players in the league, like the Nikola Jokic's of the world, Jason Tatum's, Anthony Davis, players that have always been at the top of this particular category. And keep in mind, Alperen Sengun was at the bottom of all these categories last season. And to see his improvement, you can see it in the numbers. And it's not just the numbers, you can see it in the actual eyeball test if you're actually watching the games. You can see it when he's getting to the position before the person he's guarding. Like for instance, there was a couple of times where Jokic was trying to beat him to a spot, but he was already at that spot. And that makes a huge difference because defense is not just about blocks and steals. I mean, even the best defenders today are only getting 2-3 blocks a game, maybe a couple of steals a game. It's about defensive position. It's something that Alperen Sengun had to learn. A lot of time, and the reason why I can make a whole nother video about him staying out of foul trouble this year. But the reason why he's out of foul trouble this year because he's beating his man to the spot, which lets him get in a good position, a good defensive position where he can be vertical and not reach and not grab and not trying to catch up on a play. He's already in the right position, and that makes a huge difference. And you may not even see that in the box score. You may not see that as a block or a steal. It's not really stats for beating a man to a position, but it should be because to me, that's about as big of a part on the defensive end as blocks and steals because you're going to have to be in position a lot more than worrying about getting blocks and steals. So Sengun has done a great job of being in the right position, done a great job moving his feet. He's not, in past years, a lot of times he would have to reach, he would have to grab because he was kind of behind in the play because he didn't move his feet. He just was swinging and moving his arms, trying to get a steal from behind and stuff like that, and he would get in foul trouble. Now he's moving his feet to where, again, he's in the right position. Also, a lot of that has to do with Coach Udoka. I mean, you have to talk about the fact that he's putting Sengun in a better position. A lot of times in the past, Coach Salas even admitted they put him in a lot of drop coverage, which is not necessarily a good thing, especially for Sengun, because either the player's going to get a wide open shot from the mid-range, or he's going to have a head of steam because the Rockets are playing such bad defense on perimeter where, guess what? He's driving right into Sengun and Sengun getting in foul trouble. Now Sengun's a lot more aggressive on those pick and rolls where he's jumping out. He's showing a lot more, and that's forcing the ball carrier to either have to pass the ball out to the corner, out to the baseline, but it's keeping them out of the paint, and that's made a huge difference. So you have to give Coach a lot of credit for that because he's made the difference with not only with Sengun, but also a lot of the perimeter players, even Jalen Green, to where they're playing better defense, and that helps Sengun in the long run. But again, the pick and roll defense is a lot better this season. That's another thing that's helped with Sengun's defensive rating. And another thing is he is just being able to stay out of foul trouble. He's able to be a lot more aggressive on the defensive end. He's able to come over and get a lot more of those weak side block shots. He's able to come over and maybe kind of poke the ball out when a guy's trying to back him down, like a Nikola Jokic or a Jaren Jackson Jr. or somebody like that. He's able to be more aggressive because he's staying out of foul trouble early, so later in the game he can be more aggressive, which all kind of comes back to looking at these defensive metrics to where he's top 13 in several defensive metrics. The most positive Rockets fan, there's no way in the world you would have thought that you look at some of these defensive metrics, the Alperen Sengun would be there. Yes, we expected him to be improved, but not this much. And also just the Rockets' overall defensive rating. Look at the Rockets' defensive rating. The Rockets are number one in opponents' points per game. Yes, they play at a slower pace than they did last couple of seasons, but even if you adjust that for a higher pace, the Rockets are still the number one defensive team in the league. If you look at several other defensive metrics, the Rockets are near the top or at the top of those defensive metrics. And to me, that is the biggest surprise out of everything this season is the Rockets' team defense. And Alperen Sengun is right at the top when it comes to being one of those guys that's leading the team on the defensive end. And like I said, a lot of people wouldn't have thought that when it came into the season, but if you just look at it and you watch the games, you can see that it's not a fluke. It's not just because the team is better on defense, so why Sengun numbers are better on defensive end. That's part of it. But the bigger part is just that Sengun worked so hard during the offseason, and Sengun worked so hard during training camp. I mean, I remember going out and watching him at training camp and watching him in the preseason. You can see that the communication on defense was just so much better, and that helps everybody on the defensive end. So now, hey, maybe somebody gets beat on defensive end, but hey, somebody's communicating from the baseline that hey, Jalen just got beat. We need to slide over and help him out. And when I slide over, somebody needs to slide over to the baseline to keep that man from getting a wide open three. Because the Rockets, guess what, are one of the best defense teams in the league when it comes to corner defense on the three-point shot. The Rockets also are top or near the top of the league when it comes to opponents' 3 points made per game. All this kind of just goes back to the improvement of Alperen Sengun, and it makes it a lot easier when you know that, hey, we play good defense on perimeter, we're going to have good defense on the inside. And Sengun is now playing career high minutes for the first time in his career. He's playing over 30 minutes a game, and I guarantee that has a lot to do with his defense, because if he wasn't playing defense the way he is right now, head coach would have no problem taking him out, because we've seen it with Jalen Green. He's benched in the fourth quarter. He's benched Jabari Smith in the fourth quarter. But Alperen Sengun's been Rockets' best player, so he has zero reason on the offense and the defensive end to even take him out. And I doubt we will ever see the days of players like Bruno Fernando starting over Alperen Sengun, because if there was a category for improved defensive player of the year, Alperen Sengun would be at the top, or the number one player when it comes to improved defensive player of the year. He might still win improved player of the year the way he's playing, but his defense to me has been the most impressive thing. We already knew his offensive game was great, but his defense has been so impressive this entire season. And it's going to be great to continue to watch him evolve on that side of the court, to the point where maybe one day soon, his defense improves so much that you can't even deny that end, that he might become an all-star. I know it's tough in the West with all the great front court players, but man, if his defense continues this way, it'll become less and less surprising if he does make an all-star game sometime in the future. And it'll be something to keep an eye on tonight, because the Rockets take on the Dallas Mavericks. If the Rockets win this game tonight, they will move on to the knockout round in the in-season tournament. If they don't, then they are knocked out of the tournament, and they will continue on to play some additional regular season games next week. So it'll be interesting to watch the Rockets go up against Luka and the Mavericks tonight, as the Rockets look to try to move on in the in-season tournament. And of course, we will continue to cover that and other games all week long. And we will definitely be having a podcast coming out this Saturday. We're going to have one in the last couple of weekends, because it's been just really hectic, a lot of stuff going on. But we will be having a podcast this weekend as we kind of recap the Rockets game tonight and the Rockets game on Wednesday, as they continue on being one of the most surprising teams in the NBA. And we will have all that coverage here. And as usual, we appreciate all support, and we appreciate everybody that subscribe. We are getting closer and closer to 1,000, so thank you very much for that. So continue to like the videos, so that helps us continue to bring out great content every single week. And in the comments, please let us know what you think, because we always appreciate seeing your comments. And make sure you check out the next episode of the Rockets Fuel Podcast and Rockets Fuel Report.